Kapow! Where there's a will, there is a way. And today I want to tell you some stories from our family who come from Russia, people who come from Eastern Europe, about how they survived against all odds. People wanted to kill them, they were attacked, brothers got thrown down a well, and they still survived, coming to this country here in South Africa, surviving to this very day, and thriving. Let's get into it. So the very first story is about my great-grandfather's brother. Now, this is my grandfather, the grandfather of my father. He was in Eastern Europe, and I'm going to say he was in Russia, which he was. Now, what happened was he was a religious man, and he was being persecuted for his religious beliefs in something called the Russian pogrom. So they would go to these religious synagogues, and they would literally burn them down. They would find these people, they would kill them. And my great-grandfather survived against all odds, but something terrible happened. Now his brother was heavily persecuted, and he was found, and what happened was these individuals who committed this nasty pogrom, these murderers committing death and committing murder, threw him down a well. Now I know you might be laughing, and that's disgusting if you're laughing. But it was because my great-grandfather's brother passed away that I'm telling you this today, and that his brother had to survive. Because if both of them passed away, if both of them were persecuted and killed, I would not be here today. And the only reason I'm making this video now is because the Lord above has graced us with life. He kept my great-grandfather alive. And I pray that my great-grandfather's brother is in heaven and enjoying every moment of it. And it's so sad, my great-grandfather, he could be alive today. Unfortunately, he passed away. But he survived against all odds, coming from Russia, on a barge, on a boat, with nothing, not even a single word of English in his brain, and he made it work. Now my dad tells me the story that when he came, they called it a smos, somebody who would find glass bottles on the side of the road and sell it. And he did that. He worked at his cousin, who was in South Africa, and what he did was, he cleaned toilets, he did all the dirty, grubby work. And unfortunately, that left him working for many, many years of his life. Until one day he managed to get a small building in town, and he managed to sell it off. That is where there is a will, there is a way, on my father's side. On my mother's side, there's a man called Papa. Papa is my great-grandfather on my mother's side. Now, Papa's an even more interesting story than my great-grandfather on my father's side. And this is why when you have a will, you will find a way. Now, Papa also came from Lithuania, not Eastern Europe in Lithuania, but not Eastern Europe in Russia. And so what happened with Papa was, he was a small boy, 6 or 7. And when he came from Lithuania to South Africa, he also came on a barge. He also couldn't speak a single word of English. And what he did was, in Lithuania, he was part of this organization that, thank goodness, upskilled him and taught him how to draw engineering drawings and how to build, how to design, kind of like an architecture/engineering course. Now, without that, Papa would never have made a success of himself. But what he did was, he came to South Africa, he started a factory, and he managed to support his family from ground zero, from nothing. Papa had a will to support his family and to make a new life for himself. After being persecuted, after World War II, after the Holocaust, after all this, he came to South Africa and he made it for himself. In fact, my great-grandmother loves to talk about Papa, and she said that when Papa passed away, and I hope that he's in heaven enjoying the best, I hope he's having the best time. But when my great-grandmother said that Papa, was talking about Papa, when he passed away, Papa had kept every single tool. Back then, when people used to get beans or corn, it used to come in a glass jar. When they used to get milk delivered by the milkman, it used to be in a glass canister. And Papa had kept every single glass jar, every single glass canister, every single tool he had ever had in his entire life. And so when he passed away, my great-grandmother loves to tell us how he had a massive storeroom filled with tools, filled with everything that you would need, bottles, glass, bottle tops, metal tops for beer, everything. So Papa was a meticulous man, and he was a genius. My great-grandmother loves to say how Papa would wake up in the middle of the night after dreaming, and he would write down engineering drawings. My great-grandmother also loves to talk about how Papa could go, the one time he was in Italy on some sort of business trip, and he saw a machine that could make rivets or screw Papa came back. Well, again, in Italy, that machine, he had asked how much is the machine, he wanted to buy it. Hundreds of thousands of whatever the currency, the pesos, I'm not sure. And he was too expensive and he didn't want to buy it and import it to the country. He came back with his engineering brain. Papa was a genius. He saw the machine, he knew what it needed to do, and he copied it head to toe and made his own riveting / screw making machine. So that's where there's a will, there's a way. Two sides, father's side and mother's side, both persecuted after the Holocaust, after pogroms, after killings, mass murder, and they still managed to come to this country and make a life for their families and for the next generation, which would eventually lead on to me. So I want you to think about your life after those two amazing stories. I want you to think about your lineage, the sacrifices that people before you made, because I know exactly my lineage. I know that my father, yes, he has a business and all that, but compared to my great-grandfather, him and I are failing. We aren't on the same level. So I want to come back to this. You and I need to think about what is our lineage. Who do you come from? Do you come from some sort of tribe in Scotland? Do you come from some sort of warriors? Who do you come from? And what sacrifices did they make so that you could be alive today? Watching random YouTube videos or going on TikTok. You need to have a respect for the people who came before you. And those two people who sacrificed their life. My great-grandfather lost his brother. Do you have any idea what it's like to lose a sibling? And I can only just imagine his pain. And that's why I'm committed to improving myself and doing things no matter how hard. Because they had it 100 times, 1,000 times harder. Losing a sibling, being persecuted, being killed for simple religious beliefs, and being forced to come on a barge as a young child, not knowing a single word of English, not knowing any skills, not knowing how to do anything, and coming to a foreign land just for the sake of making it better for themselves. And where there is a will, there is, my friend, a way. Now, I want to give you an example. Right now, let me be honest with you. I don't have enough money to support myself to buy rent or pay for food. But because I know that I need that for my independence, because I know I need that to prove to everybody else that I am going to be the Wunderkind, the wonder child who does it all. YouTube channel, online sales, e-commerce, everything. Supports his family, member of the community. Because I want to be that person, I have such a strong will deep-seated in the middle of me. And that is why I will find a way. And you need to do the same thing. You need to understand who you are, what you want other people to think of you, the duty that you have to the people who came before you. I've explained my lineage. They nearly died. So what is your lineage? And what is your will? Because only once you find that, will you find a why. Viktor Frankl says, I want to end on this. Viktor Frankl wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. He said, for a man who has a why, he can bear with almost any how. If you have a strong enough reason, a deep-set reason, a fear, a desire, a reason to achieve what you need to achieve, you will get through it. You will push through. You will run up and down the stairs 100 times, 1,000 times. You will lift weights. You will cut down trees. You will run away from your home in Eastern Europe and come to a new country. You will have as many children as you can. You will dress as best as possible because you know what you need to achieve and you aren't afraid to bash down any and all obstacles and walls to get there. I want you to think about what your will is and why.